Hello everyone, and welcome to, Far's carrier guide for Kaga, the premium Japanese ship. So, let's get straight into the game and talk about this lovely ship. The ship itself has been out for a number of weeks. I've only just recently been able to get my hands on her and to play a number of games, and I figured I would give my impressions, that's the word, on this particular ship, from a more experienced aircraft carrier player, rather than, you've probably seen many reviews from many people who've played this ship, but they're not necessarily aircraft carrier players. They might not know the nuances, so I'll kind of go into my thinking of the ship, how you'd use it, how you set it up, kind of gameplay differences between the other ships, that type of stuff, and then we'll go into a game at the end. So, a few things we want to talk about: the ship itself, its survivability, the maneuverability, the concealment, the comparisons to the other tier 7 ships, because there are now 4 of them in that bracket, the plane setups, the captain setup, which is quite important, the ship setup itself, module-wise, is fairly simple, and then how we might use the planes considering their different kind of strike setup, the drop patterns. So let's go straight into it. Survivability-wise, the Kaga is interesting because it's a former battleship. It has pretty good belt and thickness, but again, being shot at is usually bad. So while having extra armor, I guess, is nice, I don't really want to have that armor. I'd rather have speed or something like that. But you've got it, so yeah, fine, whatever. The 51,000 health points is also quite good. It means that you're quite difficult to snipe. You've got the extra health pool. With the torpedo bulge damage reduction of 24%, that's the highest of all the tier 7 carriers. The Hiryu has 21%. The Saipan is quite low. I think it's around 7? Yeah, 7%. Ranger has none. So Ranger's really vulnerable to being torpedo bombed. In terms of AA, the Kaga is very interesting in that although its mid-range AA is weaker than its counterpart, the Hiryu, it does have very strong... the message. I wonder what the message is. Well, let's tell them to shut up and go away. Right, so what I was talking about was the long-range AA on the Kaga is actually quite strong. It's the strongest of all the tier 7s. So it's definitely worth... that's the secondary armor. Here we go. It's definitely worth, on the captain's side, getting basic fire training and manual fire control for AA armament, because there's no defensive fires in the tier 7 bracket, and to, sort of a self-defense, because your fighter planes are tier 6, but we'll come back to that in a moment. Yeah, so the other downsides, those are good things. So I like the strong AA at longer range. I like the fact that it has silly 200mm secondary guns, even though you'll probably never get to use them effectively and you never want to. The health pool of the Kaga is quite nice. The planes are interesting. You've got more of them, but we'll come back to that in a little moment. The concealment, however, and the maneuverability are quite poor. The maximum speed 28 knots compared to, the Hiryu's, what is it, 33, 34? Yeah, 34 knots. It hurts. Those extra 6 knots, you feel it. And also, on making a hard turn, you feel the bleeding of the speed is quite high, and then the fact that the turning circle is even larger than the Hiryu at 1,080 meters, it turns forever to get a 180, and then on top of that, the rudder shift of 40.4 seconds is massive. So you need to be smart about where you put the ship and how you do it and how you use it on the map. And then one of the other elements that's kind of negative is concealment. At 12.2 kilometers, it's only 0.3 kilometers more than the Hiryu by sea detection, but the air detection is quite large. At 13.6 kilometers air detection, the next stealthy ship, the Hiryu, that's 9.9. That's actually quite a big difference. You can have like a scout plane on a cruiser or some dive bomber much further away that cannot be engaged. And what I mean by that is that on the Hiryu captain, I have the full AA package set up for playing in ranked game mode, which means I've got 6-kilometer long range guns. Because the Kaga is more an offensive ship, I don't take the advanced fire training because I want to have torpedo armor and expertise along with basic fire training. So with that in mind, the AA range is 5 kilometers, and because the detection range now is bumped up to 13.6, much easier for the enemy carrier to spot you with planes and them not to drift into your AA bubble if you want your fighters to be somewhere else. So, and it's also tricky because the planes have a longer flight path. If you have to keep the carrier back because you don't want to get detected, then your ship has to be slightly further back, or using the terrain well to hide behind some kind of obstacle like an island, but then your maneuverability isn't that great. So if a destroyer comes around the corner, the run-up time to get to full speed and to escape and then to do any form of maneuvering is really awkward. So you kind of want to be further back, but you want to also be closer so that you can turn around those bombers faster to get more damage in. In terms of the captain setup, while we're on the screen, Aircraft Servicing Expert is good, more plane health, quicker loading time. Dogfighting is absolutely mandatory because everything's down tier 6. Torpedo Acceleration is, I'm not 100% certain yet, because it's plus 5% knot speed, and you don't really care too much about the range. The torpedo bombers, specifically just on the Kaga, they drop their torpedo speed at 53 knots, whereas the Hiryu's is at 40 knots. This is assuming, of course, you take the torpedo acceleration, which adds plus 5. 53 knots might be a bit too fast, but then again, it might be perfect for going after those fast destroyers doing cross drops. Also, the faster speed means you have to drop slightly further away from the ship so that torpedoes can activate in time because they're quicker. Not sure if I'm sold on the increased speed. I mean, it's nice, but I think probably I like the speed. I think I like them to get destroyers. It's harder for them to escape if you get them kind of on an oblique angle with the torp drop and then a cross drop setup. And it's also if you can drop further back on less maneuverable targets, you can get a good hit in with a battleship. But that being said, I think the speed is realistically to go after faster targets. So I kind of like it, but whether or not you need torpedo acceleration is debatable. But the thing is, there's not really much else you can pick on the second tier bracket. You can go with like expert rear gunner, but let's be clear, your torpedo bombers and your dive bombers don't want to get tagged by fighters ever. Why would you want to? And then why spend 2 points on an enemy, So yeah, I'm not entirely sure if I'd even go with expert rear gunner. I might even go something like high alert rather than expert rear gunner, in case the chance you take fires or some nonsense like that. Anyway, moving on. For the 3 point, because Kaga is an offensive carrier in the torpedo bombers, it's 6 torpedoes at tier 7. You don't get 12 torpedoes for the 2 waves, 12 torpedo bombs until like tier 9 or 10. It's very powerful. They are going to take longer to load, so I'm going to take torpedo armament expertise, especially since the plane waves themselves are larger. It's not like the Taiho or Hakuryu will have waves 4. This is a wave of 6. It's going to take longer to load, so you get more of a benefit with torpedo armament expertise, and you want to turn around those planes quicker so you can get more bombing in, especially if you're further away from the enemy because of your ship's detectability. However, because your fighters are tier 6 and they're more vulnerable to carrier snipes, or just more vulnerable to the fact that you can't fight for air control as effectively, you might not be able to defend your own carrier from a carrier snipe. So you need to take basic fire training. Well, that's what I feel to boost up my AA. And because the nature of the AA guns on the Kaga are very good at the higher caliber variant, I'm going to take the manual fire control for AA armament, so that if torpedo bombers are coming in to attack me, I can click on them, and as soon as they come within 5 kilometer range, I'm probably going to kill off half the wave-ish, so long as you take the AA signal flag. Lastly is the air supremacy, which is a no-brainer. You always take the skill first. Even if you just got like a 10-point captain, this is the first of the tier 4 bracket skills where you get +1 fire, +1 dive bomber. It's kind of a no-brainer there. In terms of the module setup on the ship, it's the same as the Hiryu and the Saipan and the Ranger. We boost up our fighter capability. This isn't going to be a fighter ship. The 2 module setups are either 1-1-3. So why would you want to lose the cross-dropping ability of the torpedo bombers? Why would you want to lose a fighter that you can't like do cross-strafing or tag strafing and that type of mechanic? You definitely want at least 2 fighters. And 3 dive bombers that are surgically precise. That's great for, I guess, some targets, but you're not going to do the same amount of damage on a battleship, and you're not realistically going to hit destroyers with the dive bombers because they're so tiny as the reticle. It's very tricky to hit them. So we're naturally going to use 2-2-1. That extra fighter, extra torpedo bomber, totally worth it. This is where the main strength of the Kaga is. If you want 3 dive bombers, go play an American ship, like the Essex or something, right? Nothing really else to say about that on the plane side. The dive bomber tier 6 is slower so that it can't escape the fighters on the Saipan. We'll come back to the moment before I lose train of thought. The other 2 module upgrades we take is the reduced chance of fire flooding because we're a carrier, and then the reduced time to basically put out a flooding or fire if we get shot at. Because of the detectability and how it works with planes, people are going to shoot HE, and I found the ship does burn quite easily. That's a very useful thing for all carriers, especially since the nature of how your planes can't take off if you are burning. Ammunition consumables, I just take premium damage control party because it's a quicker reload time, especially for survivability and carrier sniping. It's very important. In terms of exterior and signals, combat signals are good. The 50% flooding chance is great. The extra flooding chance is also good with the fire from Victor Lima. You probably want to take the AA signal if you feel that you're in a carrier sniping meta or it's a chance. The fourth flag is kind of optional. You can go for an extra 5% chance from India X-ray. Alternatively, you can go with some speed to kind of bump up that 28 to 29.4. Or in my case, I'm just getting a bit of commander experience because it's a 90-point captain. So it's up to you how you want to play that. In terms of comparisons with the other ships, how you would play against them. Here you typically play is 2-2-2 unless you're in a rank format, which is 3-1-2. So with that in mind, you are looking... Your two fighters can kind of effectively fight the Hiryus, and your bombers are more powerful, especially the torpedo bombers. So either you go after larger targets, destroyers, or you could carrier snipe the Hiryu. The problem with carrier sniping, which is totally viable tactic, especially in double carrier games at tier 7, is that you only have a single dive bomber. Because you only have a single dive bomber, you basically merge the two smaller ones into one large wave that's more accurate. Yes, you can hit something, but because the surgical reticle is so small, the odds of you getting multiple fires is also greatly reduced. Also, because you have two waves rather than one, normally if you're going for a snipe, you would send in one torpedo, one dive bomber, try and get a flooding, do some fire, force the enemy ship, whether it be a carrier or someone else, to do a damage control party, and then you'd follow up with the second torpedo bomber and second dive bomber to get fire flooding. This mitigates the fact that the Hiryu at the time didn't have the greatest alpha strike capability, and you were reliant on flyers and floods. Because the Kaga is so much more powerful with the 12 torpedo bombers, it's actually worth it using both torpedo bombers at the same time to get as much damage in as you can, and then following up with the dive bomber after the enemy does a damage control party on the flooding. The only catch with that is because you're not doing a fire first on a carrier snipe scenario, you're giving the enemy carrier the chance to take off. If you have a fighter duel, and I've had this in a couple of games, and I've won the fighter duel, I've then got wounded or low ammo planes fighters, and I'm trying to get to the enemy carrier before he launches his fresh fighters again, and then obviously he takes off, and then he starts messing with your bombers as you're trying to kill him off. Because going after a Hiryu or a Kaga, it's actually quite tricky to get all the torpedoes to hit the ship when it's going at full speed and he's doing slight turns left to right, especially, so you want to kind of get as much damage in as you can with the torpedo bombers, and then try and get a fire follow-up. But if you're doing a fire follow-up, then his fighters are going to take off and engage you. Or you could do the dive bomber first, but now he's alert to the fact that you're bombing him, and the torpedo bombers are loitering in the area, waiting for him to damage control the fire, which if he's smart, he won't, because he'll save the damage control party for the flooding, but he'll give him time to then mess with you. There's lots of if but maybes, but what I'm trying to say is that it's better to have two dive bomber waves for fire, because the alpha damage of the dive bombers isn't really worth it. It's the fact that you can get two separate fires from two separate waves in close proximity, and plus the drive reticle of the standard Hiryu dive bomber is larger. You've got a greater chance of causing multiple fires rather than just one, which is usually the case with the Kaga. Now, sometimes you get two, but for the most part it's one. And also the dive bomber in the Kaga, if I've not already mentioned this, it's very hard to hit a destroyer, whereas on the Hiryu dive bombers, because the reticle is slightly larger, it's easier to hit the dive bombers with at least one bomb, and therefore you get one fire, and that forces a damage control party. So it's swings and roundabouts. The real strength in the Kaga, if you're playing it, is straight up those 12 torpedo planes and the 12 torpedo bombers that come out of it. That's where it all comes down to the Kaga. That's its main forte, that's its main purpose in life, is hitting hard with the torpedo planes. In terms of what do you do if you come across a Ranger? Well, the Ranger is very squishy, it has no bulge protection, you can totally alpha strike this guy, you don't have to rely on fire floods. The 12 torpedo planes can brute force their way through the AA. You just have to be aware of what fighter setup it is. If the enemy is running 202 fighters, then you have to just be aware that he may try and kind of strafe or exit strafe out of your fighter locked into you. If he's 111, he may try and exit strafe into your bombers anyway, so just be very careful that doesn't happen. But otherwise, he's an easy target to kill, but that's only if you can really legitimately get to him. Otherwise, if you can't get to the enemy carrier, then you want to go after enemy ships. If he's a fighter heavy, then he doesn't have the same capability as you to bomb, so you just out-bomb him if you get the opportunity. And if he is strike, well, you kill all his bombers with your fighters. And if he is 1-1-1, then you can out-muscle his one fighter with your two fighters, you can out-scout for him, and you can out-bomb him. So it's not really a challenge there. The main crux to the Kaga I've found so far is the Saipan. Saipan 2-2, that's the way I play it, with the two torpedo bombers, two fighters. The two fighters will outmuscle quite easily, even with dogfighting skill for the captain, the Kaga's two fighters. So you need to be careful there, especially with the Saipan's ability to strafe and exit strafe using its ammunition and not lose a plane. It's a very powerful thing. You wouldn't want to go into a game and fight for air control with the Kaga. For the most part, you are going into a game to do bombing damage. If you can get air control, that's great, but you're not looking to get it, and you're definitely not looking to start a fight with the Saipan. If the Saipan is a good player and for whatever reason he's going with three fighters, or even if he's an average player and he's going three fighters, one dive bomber, the one dive bomber is going to be clicked on destroyers all day long, and it's going to be very difficult for you to intercept them, and the three fighters are going to completely lock you out. In the Hiryu, you could drop the payload of the dive bombers and then fly faster in a scouting role to try and spread the fighters out. Because you had two of them, you could try and spread out those three fighters. But the problem is, at tier 6 planes that are slower than the tier 7 Hiryu dive bomber planes, you can't outrun the fighters on the Saipan. So you can't do that scouting technique. And the torpedo bombers are not fast enough as well, even if they drop their payload. So then you're reliant on the fighters. Now, the fighters at tier 6 are the same speed as the fighters at tier 7 for the Japanese. However, that doesn't really help the situation when you're fighting really powerful tier 9 American fighter planes. So you are at a disadvantage here, and you're out of luck. I mean, what do you do when you come across a fighter heavy Saipan? Well, he's not going to have the same bombing impact. He's reliant on RNG to go for destroyers. So even if you get like one good run in when he's not paying attention, or when he's on recycle when his fighters are lower on ammo, if you can get one good run in and kill a battleship, cruiser, destroyer, anything that has an influence on the game, so long as you have sunk something or scouted something that he can't do, then that's your advantage there. So it could be a low damage game, but even one ship kill could make the difference. But you're not going to basically carry the game unless it's like a bad enemy player. I think we've covered most of the topics that I wanted to go about the Kaga, what to do against enemy ships. Let's just go into a game and play it. So dependent on the tier and who we've got, even higher tier ships we can strike, but the important thing is all about the approach. The tier 6 planes on the Kaga are nothing new. We've already had tier 6 torpedo bombers on the Hiryu. And this is favorable matchmaking, and the enemy carrier is a Kaga as well, so maybe we'll snipe him, or maybe we'll go after the other ships. Even the tier 8 Bismarcks are not that bad, because it's all about the approach, right? So if rather than chasing the ship or coming at it from an angle where he's turning away, you want to approach the ship at a right angle, and so long as you're in the AA bubble of the enemy ship as short as possible, you can get good hits in. Now, in terms of this game here, we see a division of Cleveland, that's bad. Molotov, don't really care too much about that. Algeria, don't care too much. Fiji doesn't have a defensive fire. New Mexico is a good target. Bismarcks are okay, so is the Eisenhower, and so is the Kaga. So we've got plenty of good target opportunity here in this game. Right, so we're on Neighbors. It's a 6, 7, 8 game. We're a tier 7 carrier. This is about as good as we can want it to be. Destroyer wise, we're kind of balanced. Oh, we got a slight tier advantage, but I think I kind of want the team to go AB. Because I'm so far south, it's going to take me a long... If they go all BC, it's going to take me a long time to escape and run out. But that kind of looks like... We'll see how the team goes. I want to see where the enemy team's going as well, to give our team a kind of a feel of what to do. And I'm also looking for a flight path where I can get to the enemy carrier, because I don't want to get caught off guard by the enemy Kaga who goes after me, because he is a threat. He does have quite the strike capability like I do. I also don't want to fight his fighters unless I have a natural advantage. Even just the smallest AA bubble is enough to have a small edge in a fire duel. And I don't want to go after his fires. I don't know what's behind them. So if I choose to engage, alright, this is good. We got ships going A, so I don't have to run away just yet. No, I actually might start increasing my speed and going south as well. If he's paying attention. Yeah, he is. Right, I'm going to start moving south. Because I'm going along this way, I've got a feeling ships are going to come through here. I'm not going to have the easiest path, so I'm going to go back with this guy. I don't want his fires to get in the way of between my bombers and my fire planes. And I also don't want to give him a head-on strafe, because I want to wait. Yeah, see, look at that. He tried to do a head-on strafe. Oh, what? He was going this way, then he went that way. That's annoying. Now, he is inside an A bubble, but he's now going to strafe his plane. See, he's coming in, so I'm going to leave this now. So he just basically strafes his own. Yeah, that's fine. And I'm going to tag it as well, so I've got all this friendly AA. That's fine. Oh, he's trying to exit strafe. Let's tag it. Nuts. Yeah, the Fiji's trying to mess with my plane. See how he's turning around? And the problem now is, because he's lost one wave, see how it's 34 seconds until my wave is ready? That's also 34 seconds until his plane wave is ready. So, in terms of going for the snipe, where are his bombers? We haven't seen his bombers all game, right? They're probably on the southern edge down here. See, even the Algerie is going back. I'm not going to go into his A bubble, so I'm actually just going to go back to my ship. Right, so the Kaga's there. He's actually going out, which is bad for him. I'm just going to hit him as hard as I can. This is not probably going to be a kill. And he's going to try and strafe here. And even, you see the second wave's coming out, right? So we're just going to straight up get in there as quick as we can. I'm relying on the fact that he couldn't do as much damage. Right, let's see if we can't get this guy out. It's not a kill, I know that much. It's a wounding. See how I had not lost those planes? He would have probably died. Yeah. But I was kind of out of options at that point. The dive bomber I can't really afford to lose because I don't have a lot of reserves. See, it's only one wave reserve. But the torpedo bombers, have got plenty of them. So I don't mind too much that the torpedo bombers die. But what I am concerned about is I have not seen his bombers yet. So the odds are, is he going for a snipe? Well, I haven't seen them anywhere on the map. So I'm going to assume he might be going along the edge. Well, I didn't see him on that edge either, so... Yeah, actually, that's interesting. Has he even taken them off? See, these guys here are spotting, and these guys are spotting, so the planes can't come in and come from this direction. And... theoretically, something could come along this border here, and then my plane detection range is here, so I would know when I'm plane detected, and it would give me warning of incoming planes. Alright, there's his bombers. He's up in the north. Since the Kaga is in this corner, the Algerie is the only thing that could theoretically save him. I'm basically going to go back and finish him off, because he's the best target. I don't really want to go for the Fiji or the Algerie, because I can't necessarily guarantee to kill them. The Bismarck, I could attack him, I could actually probably kill him if I wanted to. But it's the bombing capability of the Kaga is really dangerous, so that's going to be our priority in this game. I think he wasted his strike on that Colorado. He wanted to guarantee the kill, right? But he could have gone after the Bismarck, done way more damage. Right, so you watch the return path of the bombers and see that the Kaga is... Well, it actually takes a while to turn around. He might have turned around, but he'd have to have gone this way. Let's go see if we can't spot him with the fires. Now, we'll spot the Fibiki, we'll keep him lit up for our cruiser. We're getting the sea cap, so we're doing quite well. There's the Kaga. There, boom. Right. We'll group up the bombers. It's easier to protect them. Fibiki's going to be detected by the mass, I don't have to spot him anymore. Fiji's trying to protect the Kaga. He just tried to strafe me there. See that? That was an attempted strafe. I just need to tag him. I don't need to do anything fancy. A straight up tag is enough for me. If he wants to exit, he has to lose a plane. What I'm going to do is move the... Oh, the Kaga's dead. Oh, there we go. I just noticed that. Well, that's the detectability. So we're going to go for the Bismarck now. I'm going to kill off these planes also as quick as possible so that... So you know what? I'm going to bring one of the fighters back because in case the Bismarck has a fighter or launch catapult fire. I'm going to group up the torpedo bombers because I'm just going to go straight for Alpha Strike. Watch the Bismarck. Keep the dive bombers back so that they don't get hit by AA. See he's turning away ever so slightly? So he's turning... that's a good turn. But I'm going to anticipate the turn edge. So I'm going to go further along. Actually, that's a bad turn because he's turning so sharply. And go. Watch. Yeah, that should be good. He should be dead. It's all about the approach. Now, he had taken probably quite a bit of HE damage, so his AA probably wasn't high, and there's no guarantee that it was even AA spec. But you don't want to leave anything to chance. Some people have got ferociously dangerous Bismarck ships with, you know, high AA, so we're just here making sure that our planes are approaching the ship as little as possible, and bam, we hit them as hard as we can and get the kill. 2 enemy Clevelands are on the top right. Don't want to go near them. Don't care about the Nizen and New Mexico. They're so out of position that it doesn't matter. What I'm looking at the moment is maybe get some cheeky bomber plane kills for some experience. Otherwise, my fighters are only really in a scouting role when the enemy carrier is dead. Anticipate the turn and go for the strafe. Good. Now we'll get the scout plane. It's much easier for me to dive bomb the enemy Bismarck. Let's call it Molotov's probably going to die, but I'm going to take plane losses here, but it's fine. Oh, I just realized. Watch the scout plane. Yeah, see how quickly these things die. Alright, fine. If the Molotov's not going to die, I'm going to try and have a little bit of practice of hitting. Nope. Then again, tier 6 against 4 ships. You knew that was going to probably happen. I was just looking for to kill off a wounded ship. And the enemy still can bring this back if we're not careful. Although we've got a cap advantage, so Bismarck is the main ship that's the threat. Also, the fact that he's south is helping me a lot. I want to try and get rid of this dive bomber because it's basically lighting up our destroyer. Oh, never mind. The planes fell out of the water. Fell into the water because they reached their sort of minute time limit when the enemy carrier dies. They only stay in the skies for so long. Alright, so approaching the Bismarck, the only thing that can really mess with me is potentially the Molotov and the Algerie in terms of defensive fire. The Bismarck's escaping. I don't think he's got the turning circle to go around the island, so he's going to basically going up here and then right. Well, it depends. He's going for the island. If he turns more right, then yeah, okay, we'll go this way. I want to get both plane waves at the same time. No, he's going left. Okay, so he's going to go left, which means he's locked into this sort of slow turn. And he's going to be turning away from the bombers, and I am approaching from behind. So, but the issue is I don't want him to catch up speed and then catch up to the Algerie, the Molotov, who can then give him defensive fire. Plus, his health pool is low, so not connecting with all the torpedoes in the world isn't that bad, provided I can secure the kill. Because he's going to go around the corner in a moment, and the Fusos that are attacking him aren't necessarily going to be able to kill him. So normally I would not fly the planes behind the Bismarck. This is a bad thing to do because I'm inside his A bubble much longer. But I'm greedy and I want the plane, See how he totally wrecked that wave. Actually, I might not even be able to damage him anymore. This might not even hurt. See, this is the problem when the ship turns away. You don't want to chase... So, do as I say and not as I do is realistically the story here. Although, I believe I'm flooding him. So I got off lucky there. 1 torp connection or a couple of torps on the flooding. So he might actually die out due to the flooding. But, case in point, if you're chasing a ship, you're staying inside the A bubble a long time. That is bad. If the ship is turning away from the planes as well, that is bad because you then have to cut over him. You'd have to cut over him, and he's close range AA to attack from the other side, you know, because you want him to turn into your torpedo bombers. So the fact that he was turning away just meant that the planes couldn't get an attack angle and were mauled. I mean, he just got like 12 plane kills with his AA. However, the flooding was stopped. I'm not even entirely sure these dive bombers can even get in them and do a triggered fire, especially with the Fiji there. But I can't go anywhere over on the right either because the A is too high. So we'll get both the bombers up. Our ships are dying so quickly. That's a frustrating thing. Alright, tell you what, we'll send the dive bomber around. See if we can't go around the Fiji. If the Bismarck's still alive. We could go for the Gneisenau south. Bismarck's gonna die. Yeah, he's gonna die. So what we'll do is we'll send the torpedo bombers that we've got to the south. The thinking here is that the Clevelands are not close enough to do a defensive fire. The Gneisenau we can delete in one attack wave, provided we get a good run in. We can kill him. Even with a defensive fire, that guy might still survive. So let's group up the torpedo bombers. I'm gonna use the fighters to scout here, find that Fiji. Looking with, they don't have a destroyer, so I don't have to worry about that. Now, I can't just go straight to the Gneisenau. I need to approach because of the low tier. From the south. I need to stay well outside the Cleveland's range. And approach only at the last moment. Now the issue that's annoying me is the fact that this Cleveland showing broadside, he's racing to his Gneisenau to provide support, so he's probably seen my planes. And if that's the case, I'm not going to go in for the attack run. See, I'm already in the A bubble. Yeah, he's right there, so the New Mexico is now my new target. There'd be no point going for the Gneisenau. See if we can't spot that Cleveland again. Okay, so the Cleveland's turned around. He's trying to go for the New Mexico protection. That's actually fine for us. Now, if we turn the planes around at full speed and go this way, he'll be too far away from the Gneisenau to offer protection, in theory. Especially if the Gneisenau is not paying attention and is going at full speed. I'll bring the dive bomb down as well. It's awkward because the Gneisenau is now turning because of these torpedoes. I don't want him turning closer to that Cleveland. I think he's going to bite the bullet and go for it. Is he going to turn back in? Yeah, I want to go around and attack him from this side, further away from the Cleveland, because it's all about the plane. Ah, never mind. That would be a waste. Oh, we're out of options here. And we're going to win, so I don't have to do desperate plays. Desperate plays come later. I could have attacked the Gneisenau way earlier, but I don't have a reserve of planes. Torpedo bombers, I've only got 2 left at the moment. So I'm playing semi-conservative because I don't need to be aggressive with my planes because we're in the point lead and we're in the cap lead. I just need to spot with my bombers and then we're fine, right? What I could probably do is go after the Fiji because he doesn't have defensive fire, so I could probably wreck him. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Provided, of course, the Fiji's not next to the Molotov, but that shouldn't be a problem. So here's our Fiji. We'll keep the other ships relatively spotted. We could go after New Mexico maybe, but... Oh, hello. Molotov's still alive at 3,000 health. So the Fiji could turn in on us. He's got quite maneuverability, so killing him could be a bit tricky here. I don't think we'll do a double drop. What we'll try and do is... He could have turned in quite easily, so I'm just gonna... Oh, maybe I'll drop 2... Not far enough. Didn't give enough lead. Oh, never mind, that's the game. Yes, so there we go. Using our aircraft carrier, you know, helping kill off the enemy Kaga, spotting him, doing some damage, kind of understanding the limitations of what our fighters can and can't do, understanding the limitations of what the dive bombers are. These are downsides compared to the Hiryu. We have weaker fighters, we have a weaker dive bombers, we have slightly stronger anti-air, we have a slightly tankier ship, but conversely we have way worse detection, and we have way worse maneuverability. The only reason you would play this ship is all about the 12 torpedo bombers. That's the main reason you would buy and play this ship, and it is really powerful. But in a tier 7, 8, and possibly 9 game, it's all about how you approach a ship. Patience, target selection, and then going after the target that you want. If the game is desperate and the game you're about to lose it, then yes, sure, you have to do that desperate plays, you have to go through defensive fires, you have to attack things where you might take a lot of plane losses. But in this particular instance, a game of patience, looking for the right target. In the case of point at the end, we were going for that Gneisenau, you know, but the Cleveland was doing a good job, you know, creating this bubble that we couldn't really approach. But we got what we're after, and we got some good damage, and we got some good hits. So that's it for my Kaga guide. If you have any questions from more detailed ways to play it or problems that you've got, by all means fire them down in the comments below, and I'll try and answer your questions as best as I can. The limited number of games I've played so far in the Kaga is a very fun ship to play. In terms of ranked play, it is probably not good enough. It's probably a very good random ship, but not a ranked ship. And it's also good for scenarios, the PvE scenarios. But when you come across enemy players, the 222 Hiryu has the stronger fighters and the more dispersed, you know, 2 torpedo bombers, 2 dive bombers, better scouting, more plane waves, better ability to do dot damage, better ability to hit destroyers. So the Hiryu, I think, is still the stronger carrier for ranked gameplay at tier 7. And then the Saipan, obviously, if it was 301, many Saipans that do ranked play there would be better as well. So in ranked play, I don't see this Kaga having a place, but maybe with like competitive gameplay, the Kaga could somehow come into a tier 7. If there was a tier 7, you know, competitive scene, it might be possible to use. But the Saipan is so powerful in the tier 7 bracket, it's hard to say, especially with the strafing and exit strafes. I think the Kaga is a very good ship for randoms and possibly good for ranked. But when I say the Hiryu is better, I mean at the very top echelons. I mean like the best players. You can get more out of the Hiryu or the Saipan is what I'm trying to say. So take it as it is. Buy it if you want to play it. Enjoy it if you've got it. I find it highly enjoyable, and thank you for watching.